Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and explore a truly wild scenario. What actually happens when hundreds of everyday citizens and a highly trained government radar operator all witness the exact same completely impossible phenomena on a freezing night in Michigan?
Picture this. The scene is March 8th, 1994. It's a bitterly cold, crystal clear night. The temperature is hovering right around 20 degrees. Visibility is absolutely pristine. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like an entirely unremarkable Tuesday. But as you'll see, that quiet evening is about to rapidly devolve into one of the most credible, data-backed UAP sightings in American history.
Part 1. Lights over Lake Michigan. The sheer speed of this event is just staggering. At exactly 9 p.m., Cindy Pravda sees strange lights in Grand Haven. Just 30 minutes later, Holly Graves is frantically calling 911 from nearby Holland. By 9:43 p.m., police actually arrive on the scene, and at 10 p.m., the National Weather Service is actively tracking these objects. So we're talking about a quiet, sleepy night escalating into a massive multi-county event in literally just 1 hour.
Now, the details of Cindy Pravda's sighting are fascinating. She was pacing around on a corded phone, looked out her kitchen window, and just flat out told her friend, "I think there's a UFO in my backyard." She saw 4 lights lined up just above her tree line, shining as bright as a full moon. But the eerily specific detail she noted was the utter lack of sound. In fact, her horse was out in the field grazing directly underneath these massive lights, just nodding off, completely oblivious to the whole shebang hovering above.
Part 2. The 911 calls begin.
Over in Holland, Michigan, Holly Graves makes this frantic 911 call after her 14-year-old son Joey starts screaming for her to look outside. Whatever this object was, it was so bright it literally lit up their living room like a spotlight. On the actual 911 tapes, she describes a silent, chrome cylinder with spinning red and white lights on the bottom, telling the dispatcher it looked like a string of Christmas lights that was just way up in the sky.
The police response is where this gets a real layer of credibility. Officer Jeff Velthouse gets the call, and he arrives expecting a completely mundane explanation, right? He's thinking maybe it's a fire or some kind of prank spotlight. But when he looks up, he clearly sees 2 aircraft-like lights moving toward the lake. Then comes the impossible escalation. As he's watching, the object suddenly breaks apart into 5 separate lights before completely vanishing. Needless to say, his skepticism vanished right along with it.
Part 3. Confirmation on the radar.
Enter Jack Bushong. He was a 29-year-old meteorologist working the night shift entirely alone at the Muskegon station. When the dispatcher called him with over 60 different sighting reports, Jack was naturally pretty skeptical. He assumed he'd just look at his screens and easily debunk the whole thing as a blimp or a standard commercial airplane.
But when Jack took manual control of his radar, actively operating the beam like a spotlight across the night sky, his assumptions were completely shattered. Almost immediately, he found a massive, solid return hovering right over the reported area at exactly 6,000 feet.
Jack's skepticism was gone in an instant. He straight up told the dispatcher, "These are huge returns. I've never seen anything like this, not even when I'm doing storms." His radar revealed 3 solid, highly reflective objects forming a triangle formation, and the sheer amount of energy bouncing back on his radar echo completely ruled out standard precipitation or weird weather events. He was looking at massive, solid objects.
Part 4. Impossible speeds and movements.
To really understand the data Jack was seeing here, we have to look at the known limits of human aviation. Standard aircraft climb gradually, they make wide sweeping turns, and they max out at speeds around 600 miles per hour. Well, the 1994 UAPs did the exact opposite. Jack tracked them making instantaneous vertical jumps of thousands of feet, stopping on a dime to hover completely still, and playing this bizarre game of follow the leader where they jump 20 miles at a time in a literal flash.
Okay, brace yourselves, because here is the most staggering data point of the entire night. At one point, Bushong tracked an object jumping 20 miles out over the open waters of Lake Michigan in under a single second. That calculates to a speed of 72,000 miles per hour. To put that into perspective, at that speed, you could fly from New York to Los Angeles in about 2 minutes. No human pilot could possibly survive the massive G-forces of that acceleration, and no known earthly technology could achieve it.
Part 5. Stigma and official explanations. So, what was the official response? Well, the National Weather Service officially distanced itself from the UFO reports entirely, stating their radars are designed to track weather, not aircraft. They formally proposed that the returns could be explained by a temperature inversion.
Basically, this is a layer of warm air that bends radar beams downward, which creates false echoes off the ground. In meteorology, they call this ground clutter.
Meanwhile, the media and various experts offered a whole variety of earthly theories to rationalize this massive civilian response. These ranged from social contagion and mass hysteria all the way to top-secret military black-budget aircraft. Given the deeply religious nature of the Holland area, some even suggested biblical signs, while others just leaned right back on the classic tropes of swamp gas or weather balloons. People were desperately trying to make sense of the impossible.
For Jack Bushong personally, the professional stigma was incredibly deep. In the weeks that followed, his own co-workers relentlessly mocked him. They were even hanging paper plates around the office like little flying saucers. Ultimately, his supervisor told him point-blank to get out of Michigan if he wanted to save his career. So, to protect his livelihood, Jack completely stopped talking to the press and transferred to a station down in Georgia.
Part 6. Vindication decades later. Fast forward to 2021. The Director of National Intelligence releases a massive report, officially acknowledging the existence of unexplained high-agility UAPs that seemingly defy our current understanding of physics. After decades of forced silence, Jack Bushong finally spoke out again, simply stating, "I felt vindicated." And you can see why. The government was finally describing the exact same erratic movements he had tracked on his radar almost 30 years prior. Today, civilian research groups like MUFON still strictly classify the 1994 event as unexplained. They point out a pretty glaring flaw in the official narrative. The physics of ground clutter absolutely cannot account for objects that Jack tracked shooting up to altitudes of 60,000 feet. It just doesn't work. Armed with this long-awaited validation, Jack Bushong has actually moved back to Michigan to interview witnesses and continue investigating the event himself. So, what does this all mean? What was really hovering over the freezing waters of Lake Michigan that night? When you weigh the combined evidence of hundreds of sincere civilian testimonies against the hard, undeniable radar data of solid objects moving at 72,000 miles per hour, what do you conclude? I'll leave you to wonder what truly visited the Michigan skies in 1994.